So good evening again to all of you. It's such a beautiful thing to have you all here with us this evening. And so you've heard a little bit about the Jesus journey here through the readings that our prayer chaplains have just shared. And I want to invite you all to consider one character in particular, and that is the character of Mary. Now, many of us come to this conversation understanding the Christmas story in different ways. We may think about it as legend. We may think about it as mythology. We may think about it as just a story. We may think about it as true historical fact. We may think about it in many different ways. But ultimately, what is important is how we understand it for our own lives. And so the figure of Mary for me is really important. All of the characters, as I said, are important as we kind of look at how they relate to our lives. And of course, we're celebrating Christmas, the birth of the Christ, so the baby child is the focal point. And yet we get to that point, we get to the birth only through Mary. And so I want to suggest to you all that Mary is a figure for us to think through how we can say yes to new beginnings. All the characters really are saying yes to something that is unordinary, that is extraordinary, where they're fearful, or they're unbelieving, or they're on a journey of miles from the east, like the Magi. But all of them they're starting with this idea of letting go of the logical mind, letting go of this idea of what needs to be, or what should be, or what we were told needed to happen. And they're just leaning in to the yes. They're leaning into this idea of saying, Spirit, wow, I have absolutely no idea where this is coming from. I have no idea why this is happening. I have no idea where this is going, but I will believe. I will hold to that light. I will hold that God is with us, Emmanuel, and I will move forward on this journey. Can you imagine Mary, a young girl, as was already said, to be told, guess what, Mary? You're marrying this old guy, number one. And number two, you're going to have a baby, but not the usual way. And three, that baby's going to be the Savior. That baby is going to be someone that will change the course of history. That's a lot to say yes to, is it not? Who was ready to say yes to that, maybe, right? Said no one here. Stop lying, y'all. That's a lot to say yes to. But this is the point of why Mary is such an important figure for us, because she is a pillar of faith. She's a pillar of not knowing, but trusting, of leaning into that intuition. Like, what am I feeling right now? What is coming through for me? What is making sense from this realm right here in me, not out there? What am I being told? You know, good people, we are all testaments to that at some level or another. We all have those stories where everything was stacked up against us. Nothing made sense, and yet you moved and it was successful. Or you moved, right? Yes. Thank you. This is the amen section over here. Y'all moved. And you said yes. Or guess what? Maybe you said yes and it didn't turn out the way you wanted. Who said yes to that relationship that wasn't so miraculous? But you learned something. You learned something even in the tears, even in the sorrow, even in the chaos, even in the pain. We are still always learning. See, we are not brought to this iteration of life to be punished, good people. We are not brought to this iteration of life to feel bad about who we are or what we've done or what we haven't done. We are brought to this iteration of life to be in the Christ consciousness, to lift our eyes to that shining star, to be able to see beyond what we think we know, to be able to connect with the ethers and the universe and the allness and the oneness and the perfection of the universe, to be able to tap into source. We are source. Do y'all hear me on that? We are source. And this is what Mary taps into. All the characters tap into to this vibration that we are more than what we thought we were. We are more than what we've been told. And we are saying yes to our part on this journey to creating something new and amazing and wondrous and miraculous, something that will change us. It's not about the Christ child, y'all. It's about the Christ child within. What is changing within us? What is Spirit calling us to? What is that rumbling within inside of us that's saying, you deserve more. You are more. You deserve better. Why did you do that? Why didn't you do that? We are leaning into trusting, and we are leaning into, good people, hear me when I say this, to learn how to do uncomfortable things. Do you think it was comfortable for Mary or any of these characters? It was not. And that's the teachings. That is what's behind the story for us. We have got to be able to be uncomfortable. Maybe comfortably uncomfortable or uncomfortably comfortable. I don't know. Think about it how you want. But uncomfortable, because therein is where Spirit is. Therein is that moment of that aha, of that sacredness, when you become unearthed a little bit, where you're not knowing where you're going. That's when Spirit comes in and says, I got you, but you need to co-create with me, but I have you. You are in that journey. We have to be able to be okay with not knowing, and that's hard for us. Who are the control freaks in the house? Come on now. We want to know all the time. We want to be sure that it's a sure bet, and we can't. But we have to lead with love, and we have to lead with faith, and we have to lead with the knowing that something is a brewing. Something is ready to be born in us. Something is ready to be born in the world, the likes we have never seen. And that is me. And that is you. And that is us. Something the world has never seen. Something miraculous and beautiful. But we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. We have to step off that mark a little bit, willing to be that newness. And we have to let go of the idea of perfection, y'all. Come on, we see the Christmas cards of the movies, and Mary just gave birth, and she's looking fabulous, right? Never. Who gave birth here? That did not happen, right? And so we're given this picture that all of these hard things are supposed to be easy, that all of these things that bring us to our greatest and highest good are going to be simple. And sometimes they are, and that's fabulous, but that's not always the case. They are difficult at times. They are going to literally pull us to our knees as we hear about a diagnosis that we weren't expecting, as we lose a job, as we lose a friend, as we lose a parent, as we somehow lose ourselves without knowing. But we stand in that firmly, knowing that we are on that journey to newness, on that journey to the Christ being born within us. newness, new beginnings, possibilities. This is what we're here for. This is what this night is about. And so I invite you all to take that in. What is waiting to be born in you? Or what are you waiting to birth into the world as a doula? You know, and Mary literally gave birth, but some of us will be birthing things into the world in a way that is not that literal. What are we birthing into the world? What are we ready to give life to give creation to? So I invite you all, as we consider this Christmas, Christmas is not over. Christmas is tomorrow. We are on the eve. It is not too late to set your intention. It is not too late for you to make the decision to get into the energetic force of what your new beginning will be as the Christ child coming through you as you. And so we say yes. And I'm going to invite you to think about it this way. When I was in 7th grade, my 7th grade teacher was named Mr. Christ, and we called him Mr. Christ. Yes, we did. And he didn't like that. And I have no idea why this is downloading right now, but Spirit said you need to say it, so I'm going to say it. But he was an interesting man. He always brought in catalogs of like Neiman Marcus. Anybody remember? I don't know if they still have those thick Neiman Marcus catalogs without all the ridiculously expensive things, right? Most people could never afford. He was always bringing in all of these things. You know, and I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a very impoverished neighborhood, and I now can understand he did that as a way for us to see beyond what we saw, for us to dream, for us to begin anew, to say yes to things that we could not even imagine through just seeing these things. But when he would get mad, he would always tell us, "You have the nerve and audacity," which I always thought was funny because those were words that I was learning. But part of it now I understand is he was mad when we sort of would get on our, on our high horse, but yet that's what he was training us to do, to have nerve and to have audacity. Susan Shea mentioned in the talk, in her words, that was Mary's, one of her qualities was to be audacious. And so I leave you with that question. How will you move into this holiday season, finish off this holiday season, and move into the new year with nerve and audacity? Don't y'all like the way it rolls off your lips? Say that. Nerve and audacity. We can't play small, you all. We were not brought to this life to play small. We have Spirit, God in us, and that, good people, is not small. And so I invite you all, as I close, to just think through that. And I'm going to give you a little thing that I just thought about. In Spanish, when we say more, it's más. Más. That's more. So Christmas is about more Christ. More Christ. More Christ in me. Seeing the more Christ in you. Seeing the Christ in the chaos in the world that looks like it's unpeace. Seeing the Christ in your financial statements. Seeing the Christ in that revelation of your health. Seeing the Christ in whatever's happening in your relationship or happening with your children. Más, more, Christmas. Yes? And so it is.